What's up, everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of The Nation here on the Outlaw Nation channel. I can't seem to hear myself. I was doing fine the last couple of days, but for whatever reason, I cannot seem to hear myself. I might have to unplug my microphone and plug it back in. Can you guys hear me? As I said, I've been in Northern California the last few days, just trying to make everything work with this stuff I've got here. Back and forth. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Let me know. Let me know. I'm going to disconnect this right. All right. Now are we good? Now are we good? Holy God. Technology, man. Just read my fucking mind and do what I need you to do. That's the way I look at technology. Can you hear me now? Can you guys hear me now? What about now? Are we good now? Oh, so frustrating. Yes, say yes. Anybody say yes? Yes, go some bad audio. Echoing. Am I echoing? Oh, that's not good. See, that's what I'm saying. It was doing fine yesterday, and then today now it's got echoes and shit. It's so frustrating because I don't know what the right I don't always know what the right settings are for this stuff. So I get sometimes a bit thrown off by it all. So the cool thing is to do is to hate the things you used to like. But the wrong mic is getting picked up. Okay, so maybe maybe I need to put it in the Yeti, and then maybe I need to change it slight. Okay. I know there's sound here with what I've got. They tell me the Blue Yeti mics are the best mics, yet every time I hook the Yeti up here, it's been a hell of a journey to try to hook everything up and get it going. So it's crazy. So anyway, just to let you all know, welcome to the show. This is The Nation. I am the Outlaw John Rocha here. And as I was saying earlier, it's been a rough few days here handling some business in Northern California. And we've just been dealing with that kind of stuff. We're heading back tomorrow. We'll be live for the Hot Mic. Invincible comes out tomorrow. I think season 2 comes out tomorrow or Friday. Then we've got Loki episode 5. So the next 3, 4, 5 days are going to be super busy with content. I didn't do anything yesterday, and then on Monday, I had I had 2 things that dropped: my Holdovers out of reaction, and then my reaction to the Loki mid-season trailer. So luckily, those did over 1,000. Look, I'd like to do 5 to 10 grand on everything I put up here, but you got to do content. You got to put stuff out and see how people react to it. Take your chances here. So. Anyway, I'm here live today. 115 of you joining me right off the bat. Thank you so much. Thanks for being part of The Nation. If you haven't subscribed to the channel down below, please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell button, so you see when we're dropping all the content we're doing here on the Outlaw Nation channel. I got some big announcements to announce to you all in a little bit, but you are here today for us to have this conversation about this article from Tatiana Siegel here at Variety. She put this article out. I don't know if I hope you guys have read it. But yeah, this is the article here. Crisis at Marvel. Jonathan Majors backup plan. Ooh, what do I got on? Hold on. Yeah, can you tell I wasn't fully squared up for today? Here we go. Where are we at here? I like this. All right. So anyway, let's make me a little bit bigger here. All right. Crisis at Marvel. Jonathan Majors backup plans. The Marvel's reshoots, reviving original Avengers, and more issues revealed. As you can see, there is a lot of words in this article, a lot of paragraphs, pretty extensive article talking about the drama that's going on behind the scenes at Marvel. Pretty extensive. It gets into the overall approach to Marvel. It gets into the stuff going on with the Marvels. It gets into the stuff going on with Blade, the visual effects. And this is a bit of a 1-2 punch because we had that book that came out recently from Marvel. By the way, no one ordered me that book. I put a big hint out there for people, my Amazon wish list, and no one ordered me that Marvel book. You all break my heart a little bit. I'm just joking. But yeah, we have 1-2 punch of that book coming out of behind the scenes at the MCU that those three authors wrote. And this article coming out at around just a few days afterwards. Bit of a 1-2 punch here when you look at the situation that's going on here at Marvel. I don't recall something falling apart as spectacularly and as massively as Marvel has, maybe because nothing has ever flown quite as high as Marvel has in our entertainment sphere, right? I mean, like even Star Wars, the prequel trilogies wasn't really that, well, the prequel trilogy initially wasn't really that well received, and so it became the butt of a lot of jokes, and of course, eventually now it's been reappreciated. Although those of us who saw it and didn't like it, yes, we'll concede certain things, but still overall, we don't think it's that great of a trilogy. The sequel trilogy, I think we're all in agreement, no matter what age or generation, that was not the best efforts there, and a lot of stuff went on behind the scenes. But Marvel did have some missteps, but overall, an incredible run all the way to Avengers Endgame, and even post Avengers Endgame, which I think is Ant-Man and the Wasp, was a hell of a run. And I don't think we've ever seen anything in the history of cinema quite like that. And to see the way it's fallen over the last, so quickly over the last few years, really, 4 years? I mean, 2019 was Avengers in Endgame and Infinity War. So 4 years to see it fall apart the way it has. And I don't mean fall apart in the sense of it's not redeemable or there haven't been good things, because I certainly enjoyed Loki season 1. I'm enjoying Loki season 2. Guardians of the Galaxy earlier this year was very well received. There have been a lot of people like the Miss Marvel family stuff in the Miss Marvel show itself. WandaVision, certainly a lot of people enjoyed WandaVision. That finale, maybe not so much, but the overall series for sure. There are people who defend Falcon and the Winter Soldier. There are those hardcore people who love the Eternals. And I'll certainly defend Hawkeye until my dying breath. I like that show and have rewatched it all the way through 3 times. It's just such a fun show. And certainly Black Widow, Shang-Chi, those have been some, in my opinion, some positive stuff. But overall, we've seen kind of a feeling that Marvel isn't quite hitting the mark anymore. Marvel isn't quite there anymore. And that's been a frustrating part for a lot of people who are big Marvel fans to see where it's kind of fallen. And so you look at the situation here with what was written in the article, which I think was really well done by Tatiana Siegel. As Jeff has pointed out on the hot mic, she has become one of our favorite authors, or writers rather, not authors, writers, and we enjoy reading her work because it's pretty extensive. And yeah, sometimes people get mad, sometimes people push back, but I think she does an excellent job with that. So yeah, look, I see people, yeah, right. I thought Wakanda Forever was good, and then they shoved too much in there, and now it's, and in the end, I don't have the same feeling about Wakanda Forever that I had with Black Panther, unfortunately. And so for me, it's a good movie. It's not a great movie. And there was the potential for greatness in that film. Look how little people talked about Namor and Tenoch after the film came out, right? After the film came out, there hasn't been much conversation about him, but you couldn't stop people from talking about Killmonger for years after Black Panther, even now after Black Panther. And so that I think that is a difference there in presentation and overall feeling. And it got a bit muddy in Wakanda Forever with trying to launch Armor Wars there and with Ironheart, and then the stuff with his kid and all. It just became too much. And then the Thunderbolt stuff, like, why are we throwing that in there? It just became too much. So anyway, this article, I think, does a really excellent job of showcasing what's going on with Marvel. And I do want to say to you all, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, we're like 10 minutes into the show, please subscribe to the channel. You know, I don't know if I'm going to get to that 50,000 subscribers. We only have, 2 months left. So it was a goal of mine, but we crossed 30,600 so far. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. going to be more content coming down the road here from the channel. And if you want to send in your Streamlabs and Super Chats, those are open as well. I think I pinned it in the chat. It's in the description of the video. And it's, is it not right above? No, maybe I didn't pin it in the chat. Let me pin it in the chat real quick because I don't see it. I thought I had pinned it in the chat. But maybe that's my bad. That's my bad. So let me pin it in the chat here. If I can stop the chat from moving, maybe. Yeah, there we go. Pinning my message. Maybe, yes. Yeah, there we go. All right. So if you want to send in stuff, send in support. Would appreciate it as we go along. But let's take a look at this article here. I'm going to break it down. We're doing it live, so definitely want to hear you all's thoughts and go back and forth with you all, because as I tweeted out, it's been a rough few days. So reconnecting with the Outlaw Nation, kind of putting my fingers back into the pie of the Outlaw Nation, or into the, what do you call it? Into the smoothness of it. Reconnecting, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Well, the article talks about this past September, a group of Marvel executives, including studio chief Kevin Feige, got together in Palm Springs for the studio's annual retreat. And they talk about how it was not how it's been in the past, where it was really positive and at times cocky, is what Tatiana wrote in the article overall. But there's much more drama going on now when they went to this meeting, certainly with some of the ways some of those shows and some of the movies have been received. The Jonathan Majors situation, the VFX issues, the Victoria Alonso departure, which was controversial, and the feeling that Marvel might be reeling and on its back foot. And now we have the Marvels coming, which has gotten almost no buzz and no interest. And we are 10 days away from that film coming out, I think. 10 days away. Why have our TVs not been inundated with spots for the Marvels like they were for other Marvel show or Marvel movies? And I think that speaks why. So anyway, they're talking about all of that here. And the thing they were confronting, number one, was the Jonathan Majors situation. Certainly, he's become a bigger part of Loki season 2 over these last 2 episodes. And they discussed about what to do with the situation with him and the accusations. Because as we found out last week, the court case is going to happen. He tried to have his lawyers tried to have the case thrown out. The judge said no. And now we have more things going on with people coming forward to talk about possible sexual assault from him in other situations, or assault by him in other situations. And certainly there's a London case that's real interesting. Then ahead of a key hearing in October, media outlets, including Variety, obtained a court filing that referenced a police incident in London involving Majors that led to his ex-girlfriend seeking medical attention. She was working on Quantumania. So she could not only sue Jonathan Majors, she could sue Marvel. And this is a bad look overall. So they were certainly aware, because she was a movement coach on Quantumania. And so you've got all of this coming together with Jonathan Majors. I saw a lot of people saying, well, we should recast. And that's certainly possible. Marvel has recast in the past. That is not, of course, most famously with Don Cheadle and Terrence Howard. But one of the things that troubled me here in the article is they say they might be pivoting to another comic book adversary in Doctor Doom. Now, as we've seen over the last few movies, I don't know that Marvel has done the best job introducing new villains into the MCU, right? Like we had, is my gain a little hot? Like we had, let me go this way. We had, who's the guy in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3? The Educator or something like that. Good performance, but not really a villain that you caught onto and glommed onto and really enjoyed. As I said, Namor was certainly memorable for the film, but not much of a footprint afterwards. Christian Bale, his character, the God Butcher, a lot of people not feeling that at all from Thor: Love and Thunder. And even Ant-Man the Wasp: Quantumania, a lot of people liked Jonathan Majors' performance, but they hated what happened to Kang in the movie and said, like, well, if Ant-Man can beat Kang, how threatening can Kang really be? So that, to me, when you look at all of that combined, the idea of pivoting to Doctor Doom, to me, reeks of desperation and danger. Absolute danger to me, because as I said, they haven't done a good job establishing villains recently. Who are you going to get to play Doctor Doom? Are they going to be able to step into the mix here? And as we've seen, one of the big complaints about Marvel shows and the recent Marvel movies has been the writing. So do you trust people to come in here from the writing that you've seen over the last few episodes and movies to be able to write a believable, understandable, exciting, and interesting pivot from Kang to Doctor Doom that to most fans will be transparent as fuck? And I just don't think that's the best way to go about this. I think recasting is certainly a way to go. There's multiple Kangs, multiple versions of Kang or He Who Remains. And so there's a possibility where I think that's the easier fix. You can write an easier fix. I think people will be more on board with the recasting if you were to go that route. So the fact that they were kicking around this idea of moving to Doctor Doom, rather than introducing the Fantastic Four first, then pivoting to Doctor Doom, the fact you're going to introduce Doctor Doom, then the Fantastic Four, seems odd to me. Remember when Black Adam and Shazam were being kicked around initially? Before we got the first Shazam movie, and definitely before we got Black Adam, there were rumors that they were going to do Black Adam first and introduce Shazam as kind of a backdoor origin story in the Black Adam movie. And then they eventually did not do that, and Zachary Levi became Shazam, and they went forward with that, and The Rock became Black Adam, as was the intention eventually. But that would have, I had my issues with that, and I'm sure someone could find the tape if they wanted to go back and find that. And I certainly was very clear that I did not like that idea. And I don't like this idea either. I don't like the idea of introducing the villain first, then their main adversaries on the hero's side. It doesn't seem to make sense to me. I know the comics can do it. Comics have always been able to do these things. But as I said to some people on Twitter, people saying like, well, the comics do it, they should be able to do live action. Two completely different mediums with two completely different parameters and two completely different set of expectations from the people consuming the media. So to me, that doesn't make sense on so many levels. The other part of this, which I did not know about on this Jonathan Majors situation, was, of course, I knew about him getting dropped by his publicists, his managers, by the Army campaign, the other stuff that was going on. But I didn't know that he remained a client. He remains a client at WME. That's my old agency. I used to do voiceover in Spanish and English for WME for years, until they culled that voiceover department to just celebrities, basically. And that's after CAA parted ways with him. He went to WME pre-arrest for his, quote, brutal conduct toward the staff. That is the first time I have heard anything about that with Jonathan Majors. So it's frustrating because you're watching, I think, one of the most fantastic and dynamic and interesting and unique actors we've ever seen in Jonathan Majors, yet you're hearing all this stuff in the background. And look, it's not because he's black. It's none of that shit, okay? No one said that about Chadwick. No one said that about Michael B. No one said that about numerous black actors. Terrence, yes, but Anthony Mackie. No one said that about John Cheadle, a number of black actors that have been a part of Marvel Universe. Majors is the one they're saying that. And it's very possible that Majors is one of these like tortured geniuses or aggressive geniuses. And we're used to seeing that in a white package. You know, like Brando was a difficult sack of shit to deal with. Nicholson at times has been difficult to deal with. Certainly, I was watching an old TikTok with Betty Davis talking about how frustrating it was dealing with Faye Dunaway. So we've seen that package before. I just don't know if we've seen it quite with this level of talent on the black side of things. And I think that's been an interesting thing for a lot of people to have debates and arguments about. Because to me, at the end of the day, it's about your personality. right? And I think there are moments to bring up the color of your skin or situations like that. But this doesn't feel like it, because there's a lot of people expressing issues about it who are of multiple ethnicities of dealing with him. So to me, that speaks of a pattern. And Marvel, even if he gets out of this situation, Marvel may be like, there's way too much damage here already. We need to move on. And it's certainly their prerogative. And I don't think people should ignore them moving Magazine Dreams. Disney did that. Disney moved Magazine Dreams from the release calendar and just kind of put it out in the ether for now. And we don't know what's going to happen with Magazine Dreams. So that's going to be interesting situation to see how that plays out. So the Jonathan Majors aspect of it all is certainly hanging over. And the thing is, I'm a person who believes in energy, in karma, in universal waves around something. And for years, Marvel benefited from this positivity. These actors who came in, these directors who came in, these writers who came in, they attracted the best people. And yes, they had occasional missteps. Certainly Thor Dark World, Iron Man 3 for some people, Iron Man 2 for a lot of people. Other certain ones in the MCU, first phase, 3 phases, didn't always hit. But overall, very, very positive. And I don't want to leave out Spider-Man, certainly Homecoming, certainly Far From Home, and certainly the most recent one, No Way Home, I think have all been really good. It's a damn good trilogy. So there have been a lot of positivity around Marvel. But as soon as they started making these changes and kind of moving to the younger situation, trading in the older actors for the younger actors, locking the younger actors down for longer periods of time, more movies, less money, it seems like, and going for less experienced writers, cheaper writers, newer directors, and Feige being spread thin, having to both do Disney Plus and the movies, I think this is where you've seen some of the negativity. And once you attract negative energy, it kind of spreads. And so people are attracted to this negative energy, and then negative stuff happens. And I'm a believer in that. I really am. I'm a huge believer in that stuff. And so that's what I feel like is happening here at Marvel right now, currently. And this is, you can liken it to a heavyweight fight, right? Like we're in the first few rounds, this dude was on fire. Now over these middle rounds is like 7, 8, 9 rounds. They're struggling and on the ropes. And I think what we're going to see as Feige is going to start making these changes with Iger's approval, probably Iger's insistence, we're going to see what happens in these championship rounds, as Christian liked to say, which are the 10, 11, and 12 rounds. What's going to happen with Marvel once they get further down the road? Because I think once Feige rights the ship, I think Feige is gone. And then what happens then? Because who is going to step in and be able to do what Feige did? I think there's going to be a lot of questions when you look at that. So let's see. Let's move on here. The article also speculates that these issues go back to COVID. When COVID mandated an endless torrent of interconnected Marvel content to kind of uplift Disney Plus. Now, here's where I think we have to give Marvel some grace, okay? And a lot of people, and surely a lot of people, have built up YouTube channels talking shit about Marvel. More power to you. Clearly, if you can get an audience talking shit or making up shit to get upset about, I guess you make your money and you get your following and it's fine. Although I don't like to incur toxicity, I get it. Some people can live in that fucking air of toxicity. That's not my jam. I get it though. It doesn't mean I can't be at times ruthless in my criticism, but consistently that becomes exhausting. So what we need to understand here is the Disney Plus situation. I don't think any of us could have really figured out how to navigate that. It's so difficult. You have an Iger to Chapek transition. And if you read that CNBC article, I think it was CNBC from a few months ago, where they detail how much of a toxic transition of power that was, you can't help but think that bleeds down to everybody below them. Instability at the top always affects people below them. If you watch sports, you know that consistently, right? There's an article out now that is exploring is a Bill Bidwell's run as the owner of a sports team and all the things he did and how it affected everybody below them. When you've got a shitty owner, shitty stuff happens below. You know, when I was at Collider, Fernandez, shitty owner, shitty stuff happened below. Toxic stuff happened below. People stabbed each other in the back. People took things from each other. People did crazy shit just to get on air. People did nutty stuff. And their worst impulses were indulged because there was no real inspiration at the top. And so everybody was out for themselves and nobody was about coming together as a team, you know? And I think that's what happens. It's energy that bleeds down. And so I think with Chapek and Iger being unstable, that effect, and then asking these demands or making these demands of Kevin Feige, you've got to now make these TV shows work. You got to make them canon. You got to connect all the storylines up into the movies. I mean, it was hard enough to create a universe where all the movies interconnected and worked and all the storylines kind of fed into each other and got people excited with these post-credit scenes, which became a thing, obviously, as you all know. We've seen post-credit scenes in the past, but not quite like this, where people were looking forward to them in such massive ways. And so I think that's a part of the thing you have to take a look at and give a little grace to Kevin Feige about, is that, like, who could have navigated this as effectively as he did? And yes, clearly it didn't 100% work. And that's why we're in the situation now. But this COVID thing really fucked up the industry for a while. Look, I was one of those people that said theaters were never going to come back the way they were before because of COVID and streaming. And to a degree, I was right about COVID affecting streaming, because for the older films, or for the films that are more like independent or medium level, people do stay home. They don't go and see them in the numbers that they did before. But people do go see the event films, as we saw with Barbenheimer. They do go, or No Way Home. They do go spend the money for these big films that they want to see and want to enjoy. So in a way, it bounced back, but not fully. So navigating all of that, I think, was just a lot to demand. And as Jeff has said on the hot mic numerous times, and other people have speculated, that Feige was essentially spread too thin. And it's a weird place to be in for someone like Kevin Feige, because, you know, you take pride in what you've built. You love the ego stroke. Let me tell you something. Nobody gets into Hollywood not wanting the ego stroke. Nobody becomes the face of a brand not wanting the ego stroke. That's not how it works. I'm telling you. No one is like, oh gosh, not me. I don't want to be the face of this. Oh gosh, please not me. No. People who want to be the face of the brand, Hollywood is built to uplift those instincts because you have an egotistical desire. An egotistical, I'm going to say this. Ego or egotism is not necessarily a bad thing. It depends on how you use it, right? So for the long time, Kevin enjoyed the stroke, but now he's getting the other side of it. Like we talk about quarterbacks, they deserve all the credit when they win, they deserve all the credit when they lose. And that's kind of the game here with Kevin Feige. He's essentially quarterback of the Marvel Universe. And the record was really good for a while, but he's stumbling here as we get close to the playoffs. So you're seeing that here. And I think there's got to understand that these situations were pushed to the brink for Kevin Feige. And that couldn't have been easy, for God's sakes. All right, I got 275 of you joining me right now. Thank you so much for hanging out with me live randomly on this Wednesday afternoon, talking about this article from Tatiana Siegel at Variety, breaking down Marvel. We talked about the overall stuff going on at Marvel. I want to get into the specifics here with the Marvels, with Blade, with the VFX stuff as well, and where we might be going with this. But we're at the 30-minute mark, so let me take a quick break. And on the other side, I will answer any of the Streamlabs or Super Chats that you've sent through here on the show, which I appreciate. So let's take a quick break, and I'll be right back in just a minute. All right, there we go. So I am back. Let's take a look at some of these Streamlabs and Super Chats. Thank you and other such nonsense for just sending something in. Appreciate that. Tully Quinn says, it's the writing. Marcus and McFeely provided a consistent through line and paid attention to the other movies. No one does now. Well, see, and these are the criticisms that we need to be very careful with. And look, this is nothing against you, Tully Quinn, because a lot of people do this. People do monitor the storylines and the through lines. I mean, there are script coordinators on every film. And I just think at the end of the day, we're not seeing writers that are as invested in the through lines as we've had in the past. And I think a lot of writers are here and are happy to be part of Marvel and are trying to essentially make their name, you know? Whereas I agree with you that Marcus and McFeely, I think were aware of it, knew the consistent through lines, called the other writers up. Certainly, we've heard about the Russo brothers bringing together the other directors to talk about how they're going to use the characters they've directed. You know, like with Black Panther, they brought in Ryan Coogler. This is how we're going to use Black Panther in our movies, in Endgame and Infinity War. Are you cool with this? What do you recommend? What do you suggest? There was much more camaraderie, it seems, in the first 4 phases of Marvel, first 3.5 phases of Marvel, than we've seen over the last couple of years over Marvel, 3 years over Marvel. We have not seen, or nor have we heard about that level of camaraderie and being out there for each other and constantly talking about all, like, you're not hearing about the writers or like WandaVision having conversations about, you know, what you're going to do with Wanda. As we saw Sam Raimi and other people say, we didn't even watch WandaVision before we started making Multiverse of Madness, which is madness. And I think this is where Feige does deserve some level of criticism, because that's something he definitely should have encouraged and made sure happened. And it's fascinating to me because I get it. Sam Raimi, he's a big fan of Sam Raimi, but fandom has its place. Business has another place. All right. If you're a part of my business, I don't give a fuck how famous you are. I got to get what I need for my business. And I think Feige, certainly bigger than Sam Raimi, in my opinion, in terms of accomplishment and status in the business. I know film fans and film geeks love Sam Raimi, but what Feige accomplished, Sam Raimi couldn't even come close to accomplishing, for God's sakes. So these are the differences. And I think he should have been a bit harder on Sam and other people involved to get them more in a camaraderie type situation to talk about everything. And it's unfortunate that they didn't end up doing that. And it shows in the product, you know. Let's see here. And let me hit some of these Streamlabs that have come through. Thank you very much. I'm Two Fly Cam. Says, so now it's pretty much official. MCU is dead, and now Marvel feels they need to reboot the whole thing already. It looks like DaCosta wasn't even on set for some of the reshoots they did. What a mess. But I think Star Wars is in even worse shape. Yeah, fair point. Star Wars, I don't think Star Wars is necessarily in worse shape because you've got The Mandalorian. A lot of people liked Andor. You know, Ahsoka drifted off towards the end, but started out strong. There was potential. And then we've got these movies coming. So there's more possibility in Star Wars right now than you would have seen maybe a year or two ago. So there's possibilities. And people loved Bo-Katan coming back, Katie Sackhoff. And so there's more to see, and there's more to experience here. We've got Thrawn coming in, and if they use Thrawn correctly, or whoever's in charge of Thrawn, if that's the way they go, I think there's a lot of potential for Star Wars. But the MCU is not dead, and I would push back on that. I am Two Fly Cam. They're, as I said, they're on the ropes right now, taking some hits. They had essentially been in control of the bout, and now they've gotten found out. They got exhausted. And now they're just trying to hold on a little bit because they wouldn't be dead with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 doing well, with people liking Loki Season 2 for the most part. So they're not dead. It's just a matter of figuring out what's working, what's not working, and making the adjustments. And hold on. Okay. All right. Yep. Sorry. No. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, gang. Well, as I said, we're in Northern California dealing with stuff, and I want to make sure the Lady Outlaw's okay. So anyway, you see this here and what they're doing and what's happening, and that's important to factor that in, that it's not as imbalanced as people are making it out to seem. But overall, it does feel like there's a lot of drama behind Marvel that needs to get straightened out. And we'll see. The next year or two is going to show us what's going to happen. And we'll swing back to your Marvel's point in just a second. I'm too flat cam. Lou came in here. Oh, thanks, Lou. I appreciate the very kind Streamlabs, Lou. He said, thanks for the stream. I'm hoping to see a proper end to Kang. He's been a good villain so far, more than Thanos. Loki team should handle it. And as for the Marvels, are the buddies going to do a spoiler review of it? What is your expectations? First of all, let me hit your first point. I think that's a great suggestion to have the Loki team handle Kang, because they've done a really great job so far in the first two, and those are 2 episodes that happened in Loki season 2. Maybe a little bit wasted in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, although Majors did do a great performance. Maybe a little bit wasted. So maybe that approach from the writers of Loki would be the way to go. Eric Martin doing a wonderful job this season, for sure. And as for the Marvels, we're absolutely going to do a spoiler review. There's no way we're not doing a spoiler review. And my expectations are this. I think it's going to be an okay Marvel film. And having seen some of the scenes already that have been released, I haven't been like excited from any of the scenes. But I am hoping Iman Vellani, Teyonah Parris continue in their roles. I don't think Bree's going to continue. I think you're going to see a recasting there for sure. In some way, maybe a new Captain Marvel that takes that spot. And I don't mean Teyonah Parris. I mean a new Captain Marvel that kind of looks like her, because there have been, I think, 3 or 4 separate female Captain Marvels that have been the Captain Marvel. And I know Teyonah has been, Monica Rambeau has been a Captain Marvel before as well, but she's also been Spectrum and a number of other names. So I think they would go another white blonde woman type route, or brunette type woman type route, to play that character if they were to redo it. And certainly there's a way to redo that. She's out in space, galaxy, she goes through something. It's very possible. Or maybe she dies. Maybe she dies. Maybe Bree's like, yes, you know what? Kill me off. I'm cool. Let me go. I want to go back to doing something else. It's very possible. So yeah, that's my expectations. I think it's going to be fine. I don't think it's going to be great. I don't think I'm going to hate it, but I don't think I'm going to love it. That's my expectations. And I'm seeing it next week on the 7th. So look for my reaction then. Fantastic says, hey, John, not dismissing Jonathan Majors' case isn't anything new. Most judges won't if there's police statements involved. Bringing up other cases that may or may not be allowed sounds like Hillary's laptop to damage public opinion. But I don't understand that. Why would you do that? Do you know what I'm saying? Hillary's laptop, first of all, you're getting 2 things confused. It was Hillary's email and Hunter Biden's laptop. Those are 2 different things, not the combination of them both, because Hillary's was on a desktop server. Hunter's supposed stuff was on a laptop. I'm not picking sides, so don't come after me. Right. It all depends on how they're going to use these statements and how they're going to use this situation. And if they establish a pattern, Fred, which is within the purview of the prosecution, then it helps the case. You know, I don't think this is them going after Jonathan Majors to try to bury a black man or bury a black actor. It doesn't feel that way, because I think it would look really bad if they ended up going that route and that you could prove it. And don't you think Marvel has oodles of money to be able to stop that from happening and launch a campaign through their press contacts to denigrate the Attorney General in New York and the people going after this particular case? They would have enough resources to fight the case if Jonathan Majors, if they believe Jonathan Majors was fully innocent. I feel like Marvel would be absolutely using all their power to influence the jury, influence the narrative, influence public opinion. But they're staying out of it. And I think they're staying out of it because, as we saw with the Don't Say Gay situation, they got burned by choosing one side of the issue or the other. And this is a domestic violence issue. And as we saw with that actress last night into today from Schitt's Creek, you don't want to mess around with domestic violence. You don't want to make a joke out of it. You don't want to dress up as Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. You don't want to mess with it because people take legitimately and rightfully so take that very seriously. So I think Marvel is taking a hands-off approach because they want to see how this all goes down. But I think if they knew for sure that Jonathan Majors was innocent, you would see a different approach to this case. That's just my opinion. And Lou, one more from Lou here, and we'll move on. Lou says, Disney hiring writers/creatives with a socially conscious agenda, but neglecting the actual characters like Chloe Zhao and Jessica Gao, both Asian, so sad, made it worse. Let's get a good story going, please. And Nia DaCosta abandoning ship, shame. So I think I'm going to say something to you all that's going to surprise you all. And I mean this. My mindset about all of this in terms of diversity is changing. Now, I'm not going towards the toxic route where, go woke, go broke. Those people are idiots. But I also know that I've been on this side of the fence with like trumpeting diversity and crowing about diversity and saying we need diversity. But I've seen that people don't come out for this stuff, or the way they presented it hasn't necessarily been good. They haven't done the work to present these diverse characters overall and in certain situations as well as they should have. So what that does is that gives ammunition to the go woke, go broke crowd to feel validated. And the people who are maybe on the fence about it start to listen to the go woke, go broke crowd and feel the same way or get indoctrinated into that nonsense or brainwashed into that belief. So I've amended my belief on all of this in that I do want the best person for the role, but I also want people to be aware of diversity in positions of power, in casting diversity, not just for diversity's sake, but casting if it makes sense, and then make it make sense. And that's the job of the writers, that's the job of the actors, that's the job of the directors and the producers. If you're going to take a chance like this, make it fucking work, because you're going to set the cause of diversity back if you just cast someone because they're a woman or a person of color and you don't do enough to flesh out their character so that people, regardless of ethnicity or color or gender or however they identify, which I totally respect, whatever your pronouns are, they're not going to connect to these characters if you don't write them correctly. So there's a piece of what you're saying, Lou, that I agree with. I don't 100% go the way you're going, but certainly I agree with a piece of it. And my mind has changed on this as I've seen what's happened over the last few years, as we've seen diversity become important. We've also seen people get exhausted by it. And the reason they're exhausted by it is because the people who are putting diversity in motion in their respective studios aren't doing the work, the extra work you need to do to make sure these characters work, to make sure these films are fantastic, to make sure these TV shows make sense, to make sure these characters are compelling, interesting, charming, engrossing characters for you to enjoy, which excites people to see this more and more. Like Black Panther was great. The Eternals, I thought was terrible, even though I think the actors, for the most part, did a good job with what they were given. I thought the film overall didn't quite get there. And so with Black Panther, you got an almost all black cast. It's got nominated for Best Picture. It's a pretty incredible film. And then you go to something like The Eternals and you're like, what happened to you? And so these are these things that I think need to be changed a little bit. I'm still all for diversity, but I'm all for diversity and making it work. I'm not all for diversity just to have diversity, right? The way they've laid the Marvels out, I think, has worked. I liked Ms. Marvel. Iman Vellani did a wonderful job in that series. And then I liked Monica Rambeau. Teyonah Parris did a really good job in WandaVision, even though I think they fucked her up in the finale of that show. And then, of course, Brie Larson, who I think is a damn good actress. And yes, she's opinionated, she's strong, willed, and there's nothing wrong with that. And it may rub some fans the wrong way. But the way they brought them together, I have concerns here. So let's move on to the Marvels. By the way, there's 300 of you joining me now. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Please make sure you hit a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell button as we do content here going towards the back half of the week. But let's talk about the Marvels and how this all works. All right, the Marvels here cost $250 million to make, which is mind-blowing, okay? And is tracking to open at $75 to $80 million. That is $105 million less than Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Now, I get it. You had WandaVision leading you into Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. You had Sam Raimi coming from out of the cold to come into the MCU. So a lot of people were excited. And look, that film made $900-something million, almost made $1 billion during COVID. So it's an incredible achievement. I don't like the film. I think it's terrible. I think it wasted. Again, here's another example. You introduce America Chavez in that film, and you absolutely waste her in that film. You waste that actress. You waste the introduction. You don't make her an interesting part of that film at all, and you don't make her have any agency. Everyone else is doing the work for her rather than her going on her own path to make the decision by the end of the movie. It is so frustrating to watch her path in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. So just want to clarify that as an example of how not to do diversity correctly. Although the impetus to do diversity should be applauded, the execution was not good. So anyway, that's what they're looking at for this thing. And this article says that Nia DaCosta, or that the film, took 4 weeks of reshoots to bring coherence to a tangled storyline. That's unsettling. And then Nia DaCosta began working on another film that was, while the Marvels was still in post-production, she moved to London to begin preparing Tessa Thompson for Hedda, which is the Hedda Gabler interpretation that she's doing. The source says if you're directing a $250 million movie, it's kind of weird for the director to leave with a few months to go, right? And they switched the release date between the Marvels and QUANTUMANIA because QUANTUMANIA was more ready to be released. And they just held a public screening, and this is according to the article. In June, Marvel held a public test screening in Texas. The audience gave the film middling reviews. Now, I don't know why you hold a screening in Texas, a notoriously divisive state in between the blue state, red state people. I don't know why you don't do this in something a little more familiar, a little more friendly, and then try it out in something like Texas so you can balance out the results. And so, but yeah, Nia DaCosta, now according to the article, Nia DaCosta left during post-production. And that is a no-no in filmmaking. That is a no-no in filmmaking. But you have to also factor in the fact that they did 4 weeks of reshoots. This has been pushed back twice. They've done all these things to try. Oh no, they've done all these. Am I frozen? Oh, here we go again. I hate this. Okay, there we go. They've done all these things to try to get people to, or try to make it happen. And to me, letting her go in post-production to work on Hedda is just a massive mistake on so many levels. And I don't know if they could have paid for her to stay. And once again, there's all these other factors, right? COVID pushed everything back. She's got to move on as a director. She's also inspired creatively. There was a wonderful interview with her. I think it was in Variety or THR or one of the trades. It was a great exploration of Nia DaCosta, who I like as a director. I liked her Candyman. And it may just be that for her, she hit her limit. Again, as I said near the beginning of this show, when you sense that you're in a negativity situation and you're self-aware and you know that toxicity is not good for you for mental health reasons, for work reasons, for whatever, the last place you want to go is back into the quagmire, back into the pit. And it may just be that Nia was like, I'm going to do as much as I can, but then I got to get the fuck out of here because I cannot deal with the constant changes and the constant situation. And this article says that Kevin is one of those people that likes to land the plane in the foam, which means at the absolute last possible minute he is working on these films. And even in the Ant-Man and Wasp Quantumania, they said that the special effects of the premiere looked terrible, and they worked on the special effects even days after the film premiered at the premiere and before it came out, like 11 days after, which reminded me of Cats and Tom Hooper, who was working on that film up until its release, and even after its release, he was editing some of the special effects and what have you. So I get that you could be mad at Nia DaCosta, but you could also look at the fact that this is a very clearly an unstable situation going on at Marvel, and Nia did what was best for Nia, and it was to get the fuck out of here, and I do what I can, and then I got to go do my thing. I have commitments creatively to this film, and Marvel probably did not want to pay her to delay that film, pay the salary for Tessa Thompson and for the other actors, and maybe if they had pushed the film, the one she's working on, Nia would have lost certain actors that she really wanted to make that movie. So I think Marvel, in the end, probably, who knows if we'll ever find out the truth, I bet she was working on Zoom with them while she was preparing Hedda. Now, Hedda's not going to make a lot. No one's clamoring for a Hedda Gobbler. Is that a Hedda? Is that what it is? Hedda Gobbler? Is it? No, I remember reading it when I was in college. Right, Hedda Gabler. Sorry, no one is clamoring for a Hedda Gabler film, and to make a lot of money. It's not going to make a lot of money. It's just Nia is an artist, and these things inspire her, and you have to let her, go do the things that inspire her. So I don't know what the end result's going to be with the Marvels, other than probably general malaise about the film. I can't imagine the film is going to inspire a lot of people to go into the theater and see it. So this is the thing at the end of the day. And we've gotten to the point now with Feige that flying by the seat of his pants has finally caught up with him. Because let's deal with reality. All right. We are 15 years removed from Iron Man. Now, Feige wasn't the producer. I don't think he's the producer for Iron Man. I think Feige only came, or was he the producer for Iron Man? Because I wasn't sure if he came on after Disney bought him or before Disney bought Marvel. I'm not quite sure of the time frame on that. Let me see here. Producer. Let me go all the way back to 2008 and see if he was the producer on Iron Man. Yes, he was. So there you go. Producer on Iron Man, producer on The Incredible Hulk. So he's been involved with the MCU from the beginning, making these connective storylines and through lines work. And so 15 years of flying by the seat of your pants, you're getting older. Your judgment gets affected as you get older. Your energy to be able to work in the same pace that you did when you were younger isn't there. There's more demands on you with shows and movies as opposed to like 2 movies a year. There's more demand on your time. So this flying by the seat of your pants stuff catches up to you. And if you don't have really good lieutenants underneath you to handle that slack and make it work, this is where you see a franchise that is frayed at the edges and is stretching the boundaries of what it can do, and not in a good way, in a bad way, and alienating some of the audience. And I think we're getting to the point where that Feige himself is going to move on, because this is too much for anybody to take. And especially if they want to keep going with the TV shows and the movies. And I think that's what you got from that article a couple of weeks ago, where they realized after they had to stop Daredevil Born Again, Feige realized, and credit to Kevin for realizing this, or Mr. Feige for realizing this. He said, hey, I can't keep doing this. This is wrong. This is not the Daredevil we want to see. I'm going to stop it here. We're going to change how we approach TV shows once and for all. I'm going to talk to Bob Iger. Bob, this is what I need. This is what I want to do. Executives that are just for TV, executives that are just for film. If we're going to keep going this route, this is what we need to do. And if you believe that article, that's essentially what Kevin Feige did. And for that, he deserves credit. As I said, I will call him out on certain things, but I have to give a lot of credit to Kevin Feige because, as I said, no one has ever dealt with anything like this before. No one has ever done. This is all, every time he does anything, it's brand new territory because no one's ever done this quite like this. No. And I think that's you've got to factor that in with the criticism. You have to also allow some grace here in that, how the hell would you do this? How the hell would you actually make this happen with all the egos involved, all the ulterior motives involved, all the agendas involved? Here we go again, freezing. Every time I do this, someone show me how to turn this thing off. I'm so tired of this thing popping up with. Since I did the update on the Mac, it does this. It's so damn frustrating. Anyway, so that situation. And we should swing over into the VFX. This was also a big part of the article, talking about the visual effect. And this is going to be a small section of what we're talking about. And they mentioned how the VFX were, the people involved in the visual effects were just frustrated about all of this. And eventually, because of the moving up of the schedule and all. And so there's pride to take in their work. And the fact that their pride was essentially being run over by the demands of Marvel and Feige and Victoria Alonso, it seems, they finally had enough and voted to unionize back in September, which I think is an incredible decision by them, because they don't want to get pushed around anymore. And this is something that Anna George, who was quoted in the article, who's the Marvel Studios VFX assistant coordinator, she was the former Marvel Studios VFX assistant coordinator, Anna George. When she appeared before the Congressional Labor Caucus on October 19th, she said the year 2023 was the straw that broke the camel's back. The pay and long hours at Marvel were the reason we had to start our unionization process there. The conditions were completely unsustainable. And this is what's so frustrating to me when you think about Disney, right? Because all their movies are about overcoming obstacles and fighting people who want to abuse them and fighting people who want to use them and fighting people who want to take advantage of them. And when you look at the stories that come out from behind the scenes, a lot of these things involved with Disney, there's moments where it sounds like they abuse their workers. Allegedly, they abuse if they can push you to the limit because you're not unionized, they will do it. You know, Jeff on the hot mic asked me a few months ago, he was like, why do we need unions? This is exactly why we need unions, because left to their own devices, producers by instinct, directors sometimes as well, studio heads for sure, will absolutely use you to get the product out. They will push you to your physical limit to get the product out, because what they care about is money. And not just because they're greedy, and not just because they want the stroke, but also because there are investors on the board that they have to answer to. And if those investors could give a fuck if you massage the egos of all the workers and took care of them and held their hands and made sure they worked decent hours, they could care less. What they care about is, did you get the film out? Did it make a profit? Can I make some money off the situation because I've invested in the company? Or I'm a board member of this company and I want my stocks, or I want my financial windfall to be a good one. So those are those things you're constantly navigating. And people sometimes forget, I have this battle all the time at Collider with certain people there. They're like, oh no, it's about creativity. Bullshit. It's always business. Yes, you want to create great things that people love and enjoy. But at the end of the day, because these are corporations and companies, it comes down to money and business. That's what they fucking care about. And that's what they want to have happen in the long run. If the film is also good creatively, great. But the fact that it made money, that's all they really 100% in the end care about. Now, are there instances like X-Men Last Stand, which made more money than the other two X-Men films, but everyone universally thinks is a piece of shit and no one wants Brett Ratner back to direct their superhero film? Yes. But most of the time, like we saw with the Venom movies, it's about making money. And they could care less about the quality, clearly in both of those films. No offense to Andy Serkis, but it's not good. That sequel was not a good film. And if Griffin, if you're still watching, I apologize. I know you love that second film. So we see here with Victoria Alonso, this is a microcosm of the situation here, because Victoria Alonso essentially was sacrificed at the altar of VFX. Now, there were stories that came out that she was pretty terrible to people herself, but Marvel was mad at her supposedly for going around and promoting this film of hers, Argentina 1985. But the insiders say Disney was incensed that quality control on its Marvel productions was plummeting, especially on the TV front. It's been evident for some time, and the final effects for such Disney Plus series as WandaVision and She-Hulk, inserted after their streaming debuts, were not good, and that she was promoting all this stuff. Alonso did not comment for the article. Her attorney said she is unable to comment at the time. But there are internal sources, the article says, that suggest Alonso is a scapegoat, and they point to the She-Hulk visual effects issues as a symptom of a deeper rot, namely a lack of oversight on script development. Now, here's where some of you have been chiming in, and certainly I said this a little bit earlier as well, the idea of script development. In the original arc, She-Hulk, a flashback of star Tatiana Maslany's transformation into her Hulk character didn't take place until episode 8, the penultimate episode, right? This is the same thing you heard about Daredevil Born Again. He was not going to be putting on the Daredevil costume until the 4th episode, which is, of course, ridiculous. Just like not seeing her turn into She-Hulk until the 8th episode is utter madness. And so they had to figure out where to put the scene in, and they had to put it in the pilot episode. And because they were adjusting on the fly, now the VFX team is caught in a crunch because now they've got to do the visual effects for that transformation that they had set in their schedule for further down the road on episode 8. They now have to adjust and do it for episode 1, which causes panic. It causes people to work long hours, overworks them, and what have you. So the person involved with She-Hulk said, and this is probably, I don't know, I'm not going to speculate on who it might be, but maybe it's the showrunner. Throwing it out there. Maybe it's the head writer. Okay, what's going on? All right, there we go. Somebody tell me how to turn these damn things off on here on the internet, on the Apple, because I'm going insane. The so-called bad visual effects we see was because of half-baked scripts that is not on Victoria, that is on Kevin, and even above Kevin, which is a shot at Iger and Chapek. Those issues should be addressed in pre-production. The timeline is not allowing the Marvel executives to sit with the material. I think that's an excellent analysis. This idea that there's all this demand for all this shit to keep coming and coming and coming and coming, that no one has the time to sit and just let things bake and let things cool and let things be prepared, right? You don't go to a steak restaurant and expect the steak to come out in 5 minutes. If you are, you're probably at Outback, and you're not going to get great steak at Outback. No offense, Outback is good steak. But if you want great steak, you got to be patient. You got to wait. You know, Lady Outlaw took me to Rare Society for my birthday in Solano Beach. Phenomenal steak. I waited quite a while for that steak. Double marbled. Incredible. And I was happy to wait for it. I think here's where I have to lob a little bit of criticism at the fans and at the people who have YouTube channels and the social media stuff and people who have these entertainment websites. You all are insatiable for content. Insatiable. Because you need to have this constant churning of Marvel. Good or bad, you could care less. What you care about is, will I get views on my article about this? Will I be able to, on my art, not on my article, on my video about this? Or yeah, maybe on the article if you have a website. These are the things that people become insatiable about. I think we have to adjust, just like Iger was saying when he came back. I think we have to adjust our expectations again to be like, we can wait 6 months. We can wait 8 months for a movie or for a TV show. This need to fill in the gaps between movies is what's becoming the issue for Marvel, is this demand and pressure and desire for more and more and more, and that becomes an issue. And I think that's what we're seeing here with all of this. The crazy part of this situation here is the fact that a single episode of She-Hulk cost $25 million. $25 million. Which it says dwarfed the budget of the final episode of HBO's Game of Thrones. And that had dragons, for God's sakes. $25 million. That is insane that it would cost that much. And I saw someone speculate they did numbers of maybe $225 million for that series. For She-Hulk, $225 million? That is madness. That is madness. All right. I'm at the hour mark. Let me take a break. And after this, we'll talk about Blade. And we'll talk about the original Avengers coming back, if that's where they're going to go. So we'll be right back right after this. All right. You might not believe this, but it's a lot to talk all at once. Let's hit some of these Streamlabs and Super Chats, and I'll move on to Blade and the other stuff here. John Ashford says, good day, Outlaw. What's up, man? Marvel needs to cut down on the jokey jokes, I believe. John, it's all about execution, right? You don't have to cut down on the jokes if the jokes work. You have to cut down on the jokes if the jokes don't work. That's always been the way it's been with comedy. If the comedy works, put as many jokes as you want in there. People forget Ragnarok had a shit ton of jokes from the beginning, from the Sartor scene all the way to the end. Jokes galore. But for me and a lot of people, it really worked. I know there are some of you that didn't like jokey Thor, but overall, you're in the minority. A lot of people liked it. The jokes were not as good in Thor Love and Thunder, which is why Thor Love and Thunder didn't work for a lot of people, because the jokes weren't executed correctly. I would bet there are the same number of jokes in Ragnarok as there are in Thor Love and Thunder, yet Thor Love and Thunder, for the most part, doesn't work the comedy, and Ragnarok does work the comedy. Why? Because one was executed correctly, one was not executed correctly. And that's the difference to me when I look at comedy. It's all about, can you do it right? Shay Luda Midnight says, you have a point on quantity versus quality topics. Yeah, I mean, this is life, right? You could date 100 people if you wanted to in a year. But if you were to wait for the right person or wait for the one that you think might have potential, that's going to satisfy you more than dating 100 people and having 100 of them not work out, or 90 or 99 of them not work out and you finally find your one, right? You got to be patient. And I get that. When you're young, I was young once. I still feel kind of young. I was young once, and I know what it's like, because you're just like, you know, but you've got to be patient. You got to be relaxed. You got to wait. You know, Terrence Malick used to do a film every 20 years or something like that. Now it's once every couple of years, right? Woody Allen did a film once or twice a year, and you would argue it got less and less quality as the years went on. And those are the differences. And I think the same thing you look at here with Marvel. They've established themselves. Now it's about making the public hungry for your next project. I think where they made the mistake was to try to satisfy the public too much with Marvel, right? You eat chocolate. You can't eat a whole bag of peanut M&M, like a family-sized bag of peanut M&Ms. That's going to eventually irritate you, make you fat as fuck as well, but it will irritate you, you know, cause your blood to spike. It's too much, and you'll start hating it after a while, right? So you want to wait. But if you had a handful of peanut M&Ms like once or twice a day or once a day, you could look forward to the taste. You could savor the taste of it, right? And I think that's how you have to look at a film as well. And these Marvel films as they come along. All right, some of you can finish a whole bag, but I guarantee you're not going to be happy at the end of the whole bag. It's like eating a whole pizza. You're not going to feel the same way about the last piece as you did about the first piece. But if you were to stop after 3 pieces, which is what I do, and then, you know, warm it up the next day or a couple of days later, you're going to enjoy it again. And that's the difference there. But maybe some of you want to eat a whole pizza. I don't know. Anyway, all right, let me hit some Streamlabs here that came through. Shelby. What's up, Shelby? Shelby Watch says, John, been watching you since the Schmodown. Love listening to your thoughts, and I'm addicted to the Cinephiles. Hope I can afford to be able to join the Patreon one day. Just wanted to send you some love, sir. Thank you, Shelby. I appreciate it. Thanks for being a fan of the Cinephiles. Your listen, your download is more than enough. If someday you can join the Patreon, we would love to have you on it as well. But very kind of you to say that. So thank you. By the way, for those who don't know, the Cinephiles is a podcast I've been hosting for about 8 years. Me and my movie director friend, Steve Morris, we talk about one classic or great film every week. And we've been lately breaking them up into multiple parts because there's a lot to talk about as we dive deeper and deeper into these films. We talk about the technical stuff behind the film movie, like setups and cameras, lenses, cinematography, music, and then we talk about the writing and the directing and the acting and the themes and the symbolism. So it's a show we've been doing for 8 years. We average about 150 to 250,000 downloads a month with our content, sometimes 300,000, depending on what we're doing. Last week, we dropped all our Halloween movies and we got 150,000 downloads in 1 week. So it's a really good show. It's a really good podcast, and I would like to encourage you all, if you haven't listened to it, to go and listen to it. There's 8 years or 7 years of episodes. We just did Frankenstein from 1931, and we're going to be doing Thor: Dark World as a live show this weekend on Sunday, and then we're back into the mix of other movies, which I think will be fun down the road. Fredtastic says, one of my favorite movie lines is from Any Which Way You Can. War is war, but business is business. Exactly. A bad movie with a great quote. Thanks for what you do. Outlaw Nation. I think you're trying to say outlaw, or you're saying Cut Law Nation. I don't know what Cut Law Nation is, but I appreciate that. And he also says, one of my favorite, he said it twice. Thank you, Fred. You came in once, you sent it twice. I appreciate that. It's very kind of you. All right, let's move on to Blade here. We got 290, 300 of you still hanging out with me, which I appreciate madly. Real quick, please make sure you subscribe to the channel down below. Hit that bell button. We've also got an Outlaw Nation podcast feed where all the shows, except for the Geek Buddies and the Hot Mic, exist on that feed for you all to listen to whenever you feel like it. So if anybody wants to re-listen to this, doesn't want to see my face, you can listen to it on the podcast network. Let's talk about Blade. Blade is the next thing we should discuss here. And this is something that's really interesting to look at, because apparently Mahershala Ali, this project has gone through 5 writers, 2 directors, and 1 shutdown 6 weeks before production. And one of the stories apparently was a narrative led by women and filled with life lessons. That is one of the scripts that they got. That Blade, the Daywalker, it was going to be 4 different women or a number of different women leading the narrative, and Blade was like the 4th most important person in his own film. Who thought that was a good fucking idea? Yeah, and they said the Blade was relegated to the 4th lead, which is a bizarre idea. But apparently Ali, and Jeff and I speculated this on the Hot Mic, that Mahershala Ali was close to leaving the project over script issues. Feige had to go back to the drawing board and hired Michael Green, who is one of my favorite writers, because I love Logan. Logan is my favorite superhero film, bar none, to start the script all anew. And now they want to make the film for less than $100 million. Ooh, that is concerning. If they want to do a Blade film for less than 100, that's got to be a street level film. That's got to be the original Blade with Wesley Snipes, directed by Stephen Norrington type of approach. So I think that budget was probably 50 million back then in the 90s. Is that right? Let me see here. Let me take a look at the Blade film and see if they've got a listing of the budget here. Oh, Blade film. Here we go. Yeah, Blade film. How much is the budget? 1998. Stephen Norrington made $131 million, did Blade. Pretty good for that time. Budget was $45 million. So now adjusted for 2023 dollars, what is $45 million? 1998 to 2023, adjusted for inflation, $82 million. So if you're looking at, as I said, an under $100 million film, I guess the first Blade is basically your template, your blueprint, your foundation, or your example for what you want to use to make this movie. And by the way, I got no problem with that. I don't need Blade to have these insane battles, and like there was great stuff in the original Blade movie with Wesley and Stephen Dorff that I really enjoyed. And so to me, I think this would be interesting to all of a sudden have some more of these ground-based Marvel films that are made for lower money, but people are going to go see in bigger numbers. As long as 100% you make quality films. You can go this route if they are quality films. If you falter with films of this lower budget, it's going to look cheap. You're going to denigrate your brand and stain it even more. And people are going to be less excited about this kind of stuff. And you're going to hear the worst criticism you can hear when you release a movie like this, which is, it would have been better as a TV series. It just would have been better as a TV series. Because that essentially implies you didn't do your job with the film like you should have. So people feel like you didn't give enough time to the characters in the movie. You didn't give us enough backstory. You didn't give us enough to be interested in these characters. And that's why I think the movie failed. And when you do that, that's when people resort to, oh, it would have been better as a TV series. Because that means you overloaded your film and you didn't do enough to establish its own world and its own set of working parameters and the characters to be a part of that world in a believable, organic way. So I'm concerned for Blade, but I do like that Michael Green is writing it. So maybe this is more of a, because I mean, what was Logan? Logan couldn't have been much more in terms of budget, right? Because that was more of a ground-based film as well. What was Logan? Logan was $97 to $127 million. It made $619 million at the box office. So looks like you can do a film for under $100 million and make it look as good as Logan. But Logan, again, ground-based film, right? There's a lot of traveling, smaller towns, remote areas. You're not seeing a lot of the powers being used until the end. I'm doing schnicked. That's not going to cost you a lot. Jumping, that's not going to cost you a lot. But the stuff at the end where the kids are coming together to do the things that they do, show their powers, that's going to cost you a lot. Or the stuff that Professor X is going through in certain, that's only 2 scenes of the movie. Those are 2 different, those are where you spend your money, right? So that's what we're essentially looking at for Blade. And by the way, I like that. I like that as a ground-based approach. I don't need it to be big with massive special effects. It's Blade, man. Blade's got to be a badass with the sword and fighting these vampires. So as long as it doesn't look like Van Helsing, you should be in a good situation. So we'll see how that ends up being. And you might have found the right person to be able to write the script to fit an under $100 million budget. So we will see. And I hope so, because Mahershala Ali certainly deserves something after all this madness. The last part of the article talks about the idea of bringing back the original Avengers. Sources say there have been talks to bring back the original gang for an Avengers movie because Iger publicly acknowledging the downside of a Marvel TV glut that, quote, diluted focus and attention. The keepers of the comic book empire are considering some dramatic moves like bringing back the original Avengers. This would include reviving Robert Downey Jr., who we know what happened at the end of Endgame, and Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow, who we know she sacrificed herself in Endgame. And I know people come back all the time in comics. And certainly we saw it at the end of Endgame, how many of those people who died came back. And in a way, Gamora did come back in a different way that worked for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. But they're worried about the salary. So this is the concern you have. Like, first of all, artistically, I think this is a cop-out. I really do. I really do. I love Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. I love Scarlett Johansson as Black. I eventually came to love Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow, and I did enjoy the Black Widow movie. Did that ending work? Fuck no. Was Ray Winstone miscast? Fuck yes. Was Olga Kurylenko, does she not do it for me as Taskmaster? Yes. But I enjoyed David Harbour. I enjoyed Rachel Weisz. I enjoyed Florence Pugh. I enjoyed their interactions, and I enjoyed the action sequences, especially when they broke Red Guardian out of prison, which I thought was awesome. So there was a lot to enjoy about the movie, even if the finale was kind of, there was a lot here that I really liked. So having her come back could be fun. Having Downey Jr. come back could be fun. Although I do think the Marvel Universe has moved on from the quippy, snarky Stark. I don't know if bringing him back would be the right move. And notoriously absent from this list is Chris Evans coming back as the original Captain America. I mean, if you're going to bring the Avengers back, how do you bring them all back without bringing back Chris Evans? And I just watched the Marvel Lego film they released this morning, which is like 45 minutes, 49 minutes. They have both the Black Captain America and the White Captain America in that. And so I know it might cause an issue to bring back Chris Evans, but it could be a one-off if you wanted to do it that way. And certainly a lot of people said Secret Wars, which I knew already, or a flashback, fine. But if you're doing a full Avengers movie and bringing them all back, and somehow they come back in some way, you are really pushing a massive boulder up the hill. Because A, it reeks of desperation. B, you've really given your writers a massive mountain to climb to make that believable, acceptable, and understandable. And C, if you don't pull it off, it is a massive failure if you don't pull it off. Because pulling a desperate move and having it not work makes you look ridiculous. And especially if you pull a desperate move from a place of, well, not desperation necessarily, because that's already there, but from a place of really wanting to show that you can save this thing and you don't save it and you sink it even worse, that could be an issue. So if you bring Marcus and McFeely back, if you bring the Russo brothers back, then maybe you've got yourself a shot at being able to do it. I don't know. I think it's a tall order. And I also think the MCU has really moved on, right? It's like pro wrestling. For those of you who know pro wrestling, one of the things the guys kind of hate is when the old wrestlers come back for WrestleMania because they necessarily take a spot or a storyline that a younger wrestler, that a wrestler's coming up, that a wrestler's currently in their prime, female or male, has to take a back seat so that Hulk Hogan gets another match, or The Undertaker gets another match, or as people are clamoring for The Rock to fight Roman Reigns. And certainly Rollins, Punk, other people have come out and have been upset when this has happened. Cena was certainly upset, but then Cena became that. And so you see that. And that's what this would feel like. It would feel like a slap in the face to all the young actors who have come in and taken a chance to do their work in the MCU. I mean, Florence Pugh has been fantastic as Yelena Belova. And it would be like, you guys aren't doing, essentially the message is, nobody's coming to see your movies, or we're not as successful with you. So we need to bring in the old fogies to come back. And I don't mean old fogies like they're elderly. I just mean the older characters to come back and give us some temporary success so we can reset things, and then we'll go from there. And I think that's dangerous, a dangerous message to send to these actors who you cast, especially these young actors who you've cast, essentially saying, like, you're not good enough to keep us going, because we would not be entertaining this idea if you all were successful enough to get people in to see the movies. And so I think it's dangerous to go that route, because it could really blow up in their face. And the other part of this as well is that you're essentially telling the fans, we fucked up, come back. You're trying to fool the fans or trick the fans to come back and see these movies because the old Avengers are going to come back. And the truth is, as I pointed out in my tweet earlier today, it's reminiscent of that commercial with all the old NFL players who think they can still do it, and they get on the field and realize they are way too old to be out there. And I think that's kind of true if you were to bring back Downey Jr., Chris Evans, and Scarlett Johansson, not because they're elderly or too old, in essence, they're elderly, but the universe has moved on past them. So they feel like old people coming in to try to kind of square things away. And that's a bad move, you know, because you want to appeal to the younger generation who is going to come and watch your movies over and over and over again. The last thing you want is to bring their dad and mom or their grandfather into the situation and have them teaching the young people how to do it. That's just a bad energy and a bad vibe. And I think young people see through that. Young people nowadays, I know people like to bash on young people. They are so much fucking smarter than all of us were at their age, with the technology, with social media, with the availability of information at the tip of your fingertips. They are so much more aware of things and can be potentially intelligent, but they are also so much more willing to burn it all to the ground and not go and patronize your franchise, or not go and patronize your stuff because you insult them. And so I think this is the danger if you're going to bring back the original Avengers. You're essentially saying, hey, remember all these people you kind of enjoyed? Well, we're going to push them to the side and let's focus on the old people, and they're going to come back and they're going to, inspire people to come back to the Marvel franchise. And I think that's fraught with danger from beginning to end. Oh. Like the best example where it worked is like Star Trek 2009, right? You brought in Leonard Nimoy to be Spock, but he didn't come back in and take over the Enterprise and tell Kirk what to do and tell the other Star Trek people what to do. He came in as part of the story organically that worked, but had its own through line, its own storyline, and allowed Zachary Quinto to establish his own Spock. That's how you do it. You cannot bring them back in their own Avengers movie. It will just look bad. It will look like old people trying to do this stuff again, and that's just not a good look, you know. So I just think that's where the danger comes with all of that, and we'll see. And a lot of people are like, oh, Fantastic Four and X-Men, it's going to save Marvel. What about the last few years of complete and utter fumbling around, stumbles, mistakes, misreading the audience, drama, behind the scenes issues, makes you confident that they're going to get X-Men and Fantastic Four right? I think right now, the last thing I want to see is the X-Men and the Fantastic Four under this particularly unstable regime. I would rather wait until things stabilize a little bit, then bring in X-Men, then bring in Fantastic Four. Because again, just like if you were to bring the whole Avengers crew back, if you bring them in and you fuck up the X-Men introduction and you fuck up the Fantastic Four introduction again, by the way, then what cards have you left to play? You might as well just fold up shop on the franchise and go on home. And that's the scary part of it. So I think for me personally, as I said earlier, I'd rather wait for the steak to cook instead of going like, bring the steak out now because I need to eat now. Bring X-Men now. Bring Fantastic. This is the only way to save my meal, to save my dinner. Fuck that. Wait. Be patient. Again, as fans, you asking for this is causing the issues. I think for me, wait, let them stabilize, then let them work their way to X-Men, let them work their way to Fantastic, which I hope is happening at the end of phase 6. Let's get through all of this. Then you introduce the X-Men or Fantastic Four, maybe in the Secret War situation or whatever. Yeah, I guess that's the end of it. In the Secret War situation, you can find a way to introduce it as a tease going into phase 7. That to me is the smarter move. So many people want the X-Men tomorrow or Fantastic Four tomorrow, and I think that's super fucking dangerous and could blow up in their face. You get it? Why are you gonna give me a Snickers? I feel like I'm doing okay. I had lunch before I jumped on to do this show today. Oh yeah, Deadpool 3 is another thing that they had some news about, that it's supposedly going to introduce the possibility, or Deadpool 3 is going to be a way of how they're going to introduce Wolverine, is that for Secret Wars, they're going to bring the best variant of each version of these characters to fight in Secret Wars. So the best version of Wolverine, the best version of Deadpool, the best version. Now, here's where it gets dangerous. Which Captain America are you going to choose if you're going to choose the best variant of Captain America? So this is where it can get real dicey. Which version of Captain Marvel are you going to pick? Will there be a Captain Marvel versus Ms. Marvel, which I think would be a colossal mistake? What are you going to do? Which version of Black Widow? Would you rather see Florence Pugh, who, look, be mad at me all you want, is a much better actress than Scarlett Johansson? Or would you rather see Scarlett Johansson? Which Black Widow do you want? So this is going to be the interesting thing if they do bring everybody back and establish that. So yeah. Would Alpha Flight be involved? Draws, please. I don't even think we can consider Alpha Flight at this point with how it's going at Marvel. So yeah, I would be beyond shocked if that's what happened here. Shay Luna Midnight says Hollywood gives the bare minimum on diversity, storytelling, and character introductions. It's consequences of global audience doing a broad approach. Yeah, you're right. I guess that is an element of it, but we've seen diversity work in specificity in certain movies. So you can do like Black Panther does, because Killmonger is from LA, right? From that area. From what's he from? Compton or Watts? I forget where he's from originally, but he's from that area, and he's not from Africa. So you make that specific in that way. And the issues of Black Americans versus Africans, or African Americans from America versus Africans. What is that? That's an interesting dichotomy It's very specific to the US and specific to Africa. So you can do specificity. You've just got to execute it well, you know? And I think that's the mistake there. Oakland. Yes, Oakland. I apologize. Yeah, Oakland. So there's the situation there. Whoa, is that true? Sorry, someone just sent something here. Bob Knight has passed away. Coach of Indiana. Well, please. I like the Bob Knight I knew, Jay Billis. Give me a fucking break. Here comes the reappraisal of Bob Knight, the fucking nutball throwing chairs all over the court. No offense, but I'm not going to sit here and give you a beautiful eulogy of Bob Knight. Screw that. Watch those documentaries on him. Watch the 30 for 30 on him, where he is choking numerous players or is physically threatening or assaulting numerous players. It's not a good thing. So, R.I.P. But I got no emotion for you at all. You know, for sure. So Saul's in here. What's up, Saul? Good to see you. He says Florence Pugh couldn't shine ScarJo's heels. You're insane. And quite frankly, is she at best? She's been a non-factor in her MCU appearance and downright obnoxious. Oh, Saul, who hurt you, man? What woman who has her own agency and has her own self-esteem and has her own strength hurt you? Because clearly you are not seeing what everybody else sees, which is an incredibly dynamic actress who is funny and believable and organic in her performance. The scene with her and Kate in the elevator is fantastic. The scene with her and Kate when they first meet, having a pasta or whatever, is great. Her and Black Widow is fantastic. Her making fun of Scarlett and their interactions is great. You're a madman because Florence Pugh is maybe one of the top 3 working actresses today, and I mean that in terms of her abilities to play multiple different things in believable ways and deliver dynamic performances that shock you. And I'm an actual actor, Saul. I can see greatness, and she is great. But I respect your opinion. Sincerely Yours says, I'm definitely subscribing. First time hearing you. Oh, thanks, Sincerely. I appreciate that. And anybody who has subscribed to my channel off this conversation, I appreciate you all madly. Thank you very much. I will be putting time codes up for those of you watching me live. So yeah, absolutely. So I will hope you guys follow me. So I appreciate that. She forces a terrible axe in the MCU. You're insane. Saul says Florence Pugh hurt me. She was born. No. Her subplot in Hawkeye made no sense. That's a separate conversation. That's not her fault. That's you have an issue with the writers. You don't have an issue with Florence Pugh's performance or her abilities as an actress. That's an issue with the writers, which you just detailed your criticism. It's not about her performance and what she was doing in that show. Let's see here. What else have we got? Okay, so yeah, all right. So let's take a quick break because we're at the 30-minute mark again, and I will get into my reviews for some films that I saw this week, and then we'll wrap up the show. I can't believe we've been going for an hour and a half, but that's how it goes sometimes when you're having fun with some fantastic people. Yeah, Nazit said it well. Saw both Pugh and Lady Macbeth, Little Women, Midsommar, amazing, and a lot of other things which you guys haven't seen probably. Like she's been wonderful in a lot of. I saw Night Manager. She's fucking. Was it Night Manager or hold on? Let me see. Or is it Little Drummer Girl? It's Little Drummer Girl. She was fantastic in Little Drummer Girl. If you haven't seen her in Little Drummer Girl, you need to. And what's the most recent one? Yeah, for how terrible, not terrible, but how fucking middling Don't Worry, Darling was. She was damn good in that. She's damn good in Oppenheimer. The Wonder, which is on Netflix right now, she is incredible in that. Little Women, yes. Fighting with My Family. She plays Paige so well in that movie. She is great in that movie. Outlaw King, damn good in Outlaw King. What else? And Lady Macbeth. Yes, absolutely. So like she is just an incredible actress. And we'll see what she does in Dune 2. I'll be real curious to see what she does in Dune Part 2 and how she does in Thunderbolts, because I believe she should be leading the crew in Thunderbolts. She should be the lead of that film. So anyway, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back to answer some more Streamlabs Super Chats and talk about some of these movies right after this. All right, need a little bit of a sip of the iced tea as I'm getting a little parched. Let's see here. Sincerely yours also said, just tuned into your stream. Jonathan Majors is not it. Respectfully, I don't believe his performance at all. Sometimes cringy. Hey, I totally respect that. A lot of people, he delivers an interesting performance. No, let me say this, because interesting implies you would like it. He delivers an unusual and unique performance, and it's up to you to decide if you like it. And I think as an actor watching Jonathan Majors, some of his instincts are things that you marvel at when you're watching an actor. His work in between the lines, his work in between the pauses, his ability to deliver line readings in ways that you've never heard before, I think makes him unique. And if it works for you, he is incredibly believable, and you're marveling at what he's doing, for lack of a better term. And clearly sincere, but if it doesn't work for you, then you feel like Sincerely Yours feels, which is cringy. And so I've seen both. And to me, that's the mark of a damn good actor, honestly. An interestingly unique actor, shall I say, is that people are initially like, kind of like, wait, what? And other people are like, this is incredible. So he's doing what he's supposed to be doing, which is to kind of keep you on your heels as he's doing his versions of Kang and the variants. So I have no problem with what he's doing, but I absolutely 100% respect that it's cringy for you, brother, because, you know, you have your own sensors, you have your own prisms that you watch things through, and for you, it doesn't work. All right, I think that's all the Streamlabs and Super Chats have come through so far. So if you want to send anything, and if you have any more comments about the Marvel article, if you have any more speculation, send them in as we go along. I'm going to move on real quick to these reviews. I saw Five Nights at Freddy's. I thought Five Nights at Freddy's was a perfectly fine film. I wasn't offended by it. I saw some people get really upset about the movie or get hurt by the movie, and I don't understand that reaction. I thought Josh Hutcherson did a fantastic job for the role he was given, and the young girl I think did a really nice job as well. Let me bring her up so I don't butcher her name in any way, shape, or form. I misspelled it. Sorry about that. Five Nights. Should probably, here we go. Piper Rubio. I thought Piper Rubio as Abby had nice chemistry with Josh Hutcherson's Mike. Finding out that they have this familial connection, and then finding out what happened to Mike's brother, I thought was a nice and new, interesting approach to this story. I have never played the game, so I didn't know anything about this walking in. And yes, some of you may be like, well, then how can you judge the movie? Well, that's kind of what you make a movie for, is to bring new people who have never seen it to jump into the franchise. And so for me, there was enough here that I was interested in. I liked what we got with the animatronic characters. Finding out their backstory was very unsettling, and seeing the constant dream that Mike was reliving and what happens to Mike in that dream was harrowing. And I enjoyed Matthew Lillard for the amount of time that we got Matthew Lillard in the movie. Mary Stuart Masterson was great to see. It's kind of mind-blowing for me to see Mary Stuart Masterson as an older woman, because to me, she'll always be some kind of wonderful. She'll always be like kind of that age. But she still looks fantastic. She still looks like she could do any of those films, and still a damn good actress. So I would say overall, I thought the chemistry of the actors really worked. I liked the performances they delivered. Elizabeth Lail is one of the criticisms I would have in the movie. I didn't think her dialogue did her any favors, and the way they kind of tried to hold back something that wasn't necessarily, how can I say it? They made it irritating to hold back her secret rather than interesting. And that's a fine line you walk in a film like this, in a horror film like this, because you don't want to have the audience lose interest in finding out what the secret is. And I think probably most people probably guessed. Certainly people have probably seen the or played the game knew. But people like me, like I sensed she was connected in some way to what was going on, but I didn't know the connection. And then you when it gets revealed, you're just like, oh, okay. But then why did this, and this happen? Why haven't we explored why this, and this happened? Why wasn't that a bigger part of the movie, right? The horror aspects of it all with the animatronics and coming to life and doing the things they do, it's a PG-13 Peacock film, so you're not going to get brutal kills and bloody stuff. You're going to see things, and they do a crafty thing by showing it in shadow to try to get away with it. But I think they were trying to keep it at a certain level so that if parents took their kids, they wouldn't necessarily be offended at the kind of gore that is probably involved in the game. Because it's different. A video game, you kind of, you have that disconnect, right? But if you're watching actual living people go through something here, even if it's simulated, which obviously it is in the movies, it still can affect you, right? So I think they try to walk that line. So for what it was, I thought Emma Tammy did a nice job directing the movie, but I think there is a better movie to be made in the sequel. And I think Peacock should take the handcuffs off a little bit and have some more fun with this thing and lean into the dark comedy of the franchise. And I think that would have worked for Five Nights at Freddy's overall. So that's so to me, I give it three cowboy hats out of 5 cowboy hats. I wish I could have given it more. It's a C movie. It's a perfectly fine movie, and you'll enjoy Josh Hutcherson, who I think does a really nice job with the layers of that character. But some of the writing here, and this is where Scott Cawthon, of course, who created the franchise, Seth Kudebeck and Emma Tammy, I think there's work to be done here as writers, that they could have fleshed out these storylines a bit more, made the connections a bit more interesting, made the plot points make sense, because some of the plot points you're like, well, why did they allow this to happen? Why were they slow to this? Why didn't they figure this out? Can we get a little more of the process of what happens with Abby and the animatronic characters? Can we kind of build up to that instead of boom, it's happening? So there are mistakes there, I think, in the writing that I think that's what lets down the film overall. So that's where the work needs to be done when they go into a sequel. All right. The other one is The Killer, which I got a chance to see, which I thought The Killer was great. The Killer is fantastic. Soderbergh is back Fincher. Fincher is back doing what he does best, which is directing these thought-provoking, quietly moving films with moments of brutality, right? Like Seven. Seven is just trying to figure out who the serial killer is, and then having these really harrowing moments that suck you into the movie more. The cinematography here is excellent. The direction and the pacing of the film is excellent. Where you're going to, the mystery, he keeps the mystery bubbling through the whole movie. Through the whole movie, the mystery is bubbling. And that's exciting for me. And I thought, I thought the I thought the score worked really well as well overall to kind of get you into what was happening in all the scenes and taking you from place to place. It is a film that takes its time. It's a revenge film, but it's a revenge film that takes its time to where it's going, that builds layer upon layer upon layer. As it's world building, it is also dialing into the character that Michael Fassbender plays more and more and more as the film goes along. And Michael Fassbender is excellent in this movie, just excellent. Fincher knew exactly how to use Fassbender and to take advantage of Fassbender's naturally cerebral and contemplative style of acting. And it worked with this film. He is harried when he needs to be harried. He is unsteady or nervous when he needs to be nervous in believable ways, but he's also ruthless and sociopathic at times in ways that challenge you as the viewer, because he is the protagonist. And so there are certain things that he does that you as the viewer, you have to have conversations with yourself about whether you're okay with the decisions that he's making, because you understand why he's doing these things, and you understand the person who's been hurt that he is trying to avenge and the reasons why. So I thought that was excellent. The writers here, Andrew Kevin Walken, Alexis Nolent, and Luke Giacomo do a really great job adapting Giacomo's graphic novel here, which I thought was again, excellent writing here. Tilda Swinton, Charles Powell, Arliss Howard, and Kelly O'Malley are the standouts of the other actors besides Fassbender. The scenes with Tilda Swinton are just electric. You're like a cat dancing on an electric wire watching their scenes and their back and forth. And this is where the writing really shines, is these one-on-one scenes. He has a one-on-one scene with Charles Parnell, who some of you know from Top Gun Maverick and other things. There's great back and forth with them. Carrie O'Malley, I think, does a great job as the character as it progresses in the scenes that she's in, and what ends up happening to her works so well. And then Arliss Howard, I think they used Arliss Howard correctly in a film like this. And the back and forth with him and Michael Fassbender, I think, works really well. Sala Baker plays the brute, so I'll give a little bit of love to that. The fight scene between him and Michael Fassbender is brutal. I mean, brutal. So prepare for that. But this is a contemplative, cerebral film. It is not revenge. It is much more revenge. And I like that. So if you're into that kind of stuff, Fincher's got you taken care of. The Holdovers. Okay, so I saw The Holdovers the other night. The Holdovers is excellent. This is one of those little gems that you, as a lover of film, are so happy that they still make, and that studios still greenlight, and that the right people get involved in this. Alexander Payne, who I did not like his previous film Downsizing, but I've been a fan of all the other films, Descendants, Sideways, Citizen Ruth, all these other films that he's done. I've really enjoyed Alexander Payne and his voice in film. I think this is on par with The Descendants, which I think is my favorite Alexander Payne film. This competes with The Descendants for my overall affection. And I think a couple of more rewatches and it'll go to number one for me of Alexander Payne films. Honestly, the work here from Paul Giamatti is a career-defining performance. We all know he's a great actor. We've seen him in a million things. Certainly, people love Billions, which is a show I haven't watched. I got to get into Billions and watch Billions. But he is excellent in this movie. There's a vulnerability. There's a defensiveness. There's a realness to this character. Yes, it's set in 1970 at this prep college or at this prep high school, rather, and these kids are held over because their parents didn't pick them up. And you get to know a few of the kids. And then Dominic Sessa is the main kid you get to know in the movie, and the relationship with him and Paul Giamatti as the film progresses, and Divine Joan Rudolph, who some of you know from Murders in the Building, the Only Murders in the Building, and other projects. Their relationship, because she is the head cafeteria lady, the cook, the chef, you might say. Paul Giamatti's the teacher, has been selected to stay with these kids who have been held over, and Dominic Sessa is the main kid who is held over, and he's dealing with stuff. And as the film unfolds, we see the emotional journey that Dominic Sessa is going through, mirroring the emotional journey that Paul Giamatti's character is going through. And there's a real beauty to their relationship as a pseudo-father and a pseudo-son to each other. And Divine Joy Randolph, I think she plays a character named Mary. Her personal journey is what she's going through. What you see in the trailer, she's lost her son to Vietnam. It is very new. Remember, this is 1970. So there's a lot of conversations about loss, about grief, about how to interact in social situations, and also what your responsibility is to your fellow human when you're in a situation with that person. How do you navigate their grief? How do you navigate their pain? How do you navigate their issues? And how do those people who are navigating those things also find strength and their own agency in their own journey as they deal with the other people who are on the outside, experiencing what they're going through and trying to navigate it themselves. So the writing here is excellent. Let me give some love to the writers here. I don't have all these things pulled up. I probably should have pulled them up before I started these reviews. Sorry about that. Yeah, David Hemmingson, wonderful job writing this. Just wonderful job writing this. What we experienced through Paul Giamatti, as you know, he's kind of like the uber nerd who became a teacher, and you find out his backstory, and you find out the things that he experiences, and you find out his approach to the world. And listen, this isn't one of those cheesy ones where, like, at the end, they're all like, yes, let's live life. It's much more natural and believable and paced in a way that makes you really interested to see what happens with these characters and with these storylines. And they do frustrate you. They piss you off. You question whether they deserve any kind of happiness in certain moments. But then you have to look at all the stuff that's going on with them and put their behavior in perspective and navigate that as you watch the film. So this is a gem of a movie, wonderfully directed by Alexander Payne. The lightest of touches in certain moments, the smartest of touches in certain moments as well. And just there's a believability here that is just so fun to experience. And as someone who grew up, around the similar time, I found this to be incredibly real. And I love that. And the cinematography here from Egil Brilt, I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong. I thought it did a wonderful job. And Mark Orton's music was great in this one as well. I highly recommend. This one's like 4.5 out of 5 cowboy hats, I would say. 4.5 out of 5 cowboy hats. It absolutely deserves to be nominated for Best Picture. GIamatti is certainly in the mix for Best Actor. I think Divine Joy Randolph and what she goes through. There's a scene with her in the kitchen at a Christmas party that when you watch the scene, it is going to shatter you. She is so good leading up to that scene. And she is a no-frills person who does not, just like Paul Giamatti, just like Dominic says in the movie, she does not give her emotions freely or easily. So you're dealing with 3 people who are very much guarding themselves from pain they could experience and have built up walls and defensive walls, and how these 3 navigate each other as they push each other's buttons, but also care for each other in certain situations as they pop up in the film. So highly, highly recommend this one. Definitely go see this one. I absolutely believe it'll be nominated for Best Picture for sure. The last film I'll talk about is Priscilla. I got to see Priscilla a couple of weeks ago. I haven't been able to do a review just yet. I don't think a lot of people watch the review, so I'm just kind of pushing it into this conversation. Sofia Coppola did a wonderful job directing this movie. I haven't always been the biggest fan of Sofia as a director, but I like that her instincts are to tell these smaller, more contained human stories. And using the story of Priscilla Presley here, I think is a fascinating decision for her to go with. It's based on the book Elvis and Me by Sandra Harmon and Priscilla Presley. I think Priscilla was an executive producer on the film. Sofia adapted it. She wrote it, adapted it from the book, and directed it. And this is an interesting look. I'm a massive Elvis fan. So this film was a little difficult to watch because of where they take the story of Priscilla and Elvis. It isn't just, this is a young woman who was groomed by Elvis, and then that's the story. Elvis bad, Priscilla good. There's much more nuance going on here in their relationship, in their affection for each other. Priscilla has much more agency in the relationship progressing than maybe another writer or another director would have given her, which I think is fair to the story, and it's real because obviously this is based on the book that Priscilla wrote. This is Priscilla's point of view of their relationship. And you do get a 3-dimensional picture of Elvis Presley. Jacob Elordi does an incredible job as Elvis. He's too skinny to play the older Elvis when we get to those sections of the film, but the early sections or the early years of them getting together and all they go through, I thought he was excellent as Elvis and believable. Every bit as good, if not better, than Austin Butler in some of the ways he played Elvis. Like Austin Butler's Elvis is still the boy you want to take care of. Jacob Elordi's Elvis is much more of a sharper knife, shall we say. Not just because of some of the things he does in the movie, but just the way he played. There's more animalistic, scary energy in his Elvis than even when he's being sexy and when he's being flirty and when he's being like all humble and shit with Priscilla's parents. There's much more of this bubbling energy that could explode at any moment with his Elvis. And I don't just mean explode anger. I mean like explode into performance, explode into singing, explode into whatever, that I think it was slightly missing from Austin Butler's performance. So I thought Jacob did a wonderful job. But Kaylee Spaney is the standout of the movie, obviously, is Priscilla. I had never heard of Kaylee. I don't know if I've ever seen anything that Kaylee was in. I probably might have seen her, but didn't, recognize or notice her. she is excellent as Priscilla and very believable as she goes from 14, 15, 16-year-old to where she ends up by the end of the movie. And there is so much good writing here that Sofia does in adapting the book that Kaylee just knocks out of the park in the development of Priscilla. And her work as an actress, as she's developing the character, and as the character grows through the years, experiencing the things that Elvis does to her, the cheating, the you could argue the domestic assault, domestic violence scenes in the film. I don't know, obviously, how much of that is true, how much isn't, but it's in the film. And how she grows as a person and how much more three-dimensional their relationship is. And it's important. It isn't just one side good, one side bad. It is much more fleshed out and real, as these situations with famous people usually are. And so I like that that was a big part of the movie. And I would not be surprised if Kaylee Spaney gets nominated, because, I mean, there are those scenes when she's a young girl and teenager. It is so believable what she's navigating, this interest from Elvis, being overwhelmed by it, but also like wanting to respect her parents, and then how to deal with a new environment, like going to Memphis and seeing the Memphis Mafia, Elvis's dudes. How does a young woman deal with all these guys and the influences Elvis has on them, and how she's treated by them at times, but also her creating relationships with the women in Elvis's life, his grandmom, the woman who takes care of the house, Vern's new wife, his dad's new wife. Those things are really interesting to see. So Sofia, I think, did a wonderful job with this film. Do I think it's going to be nominated for Best Picture? No. Would she have an inside track for Best Director? Maybe in a different year. I don't know necessarily she can crack through. But I think Kaylee Spaney and Jacob Elordi might have claims for Best Actress and Best Supporting Actor in this movie. So don't be surprised. But this is one you should definitely see. And yes, if you're an Elvis fan, there are some tough things to watch that happen in the movie that Elvis does. So you've got to kind of come to terms with that as you're watching the movie. But in exchange, you get two wonderful performances throughout the whole film, and a wonderful job as a director, and some wonderful direction from Sofia Coppola in the film as well, and some really nice scenes that she wrote for the film from adapting the book. So I give Priscilla 4 cowboy hats out of 5 cowboy hats. It's really good. I think there was more to flesh out with Priscilla. There was more to flesh out in this relationship. There was more to see that I think that would have done the movie well, because the back half of the film, when we get to the late 60s, 70s, we kind of start barreling towards the end. And I wish we had taken a little more time to progress to the end, so that we would understand, so that we could embrace the moment that she makes the decision that she makes by the end of the movie with much more power and much more strength. And I do think Kaylee didn't 100% nail that moment acting wise. I do think that's the one moment or one scene in the film where I think another take, or maybe 2 or 3 other takes that you could have chosen from, might have delivered a better, more resonant emotion in that sequence, in that final seconds of that sequence. So those are the complaints I would have about the film. But overall, 4 out of 5 stars. Highly recommended to you. All right, well, there you go. Let me see if I've got any final Streamlabs or Super Chats before I wrap up. Wiley's in here, says, during this time of the year, I really like emotional content. I feel like we've been lacking that during this time. Hopefully Holdovers does that for me. Oh, Wiley, you're going to love Holdovers. You're going to fucking love it. You know, from what I know of you, bro, you're going to love it. Lost in Translation is one of my favorite movies of all time. I also loved On the Rocks, her last film. Oh, yeah, the one she did with Bill Murray, Rashida Jones. What vein is Priscilla compared to both of those? I would have to say, Wiley, not to cop out, a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B, because column A is Lost in Translation in the connection going on between an older man and a younger woman. And then Love on the Rocks, the contentious nature of their relationship becomes a huge part of the second half of Priscilla. So I would say a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B, but they work so well together. I am not one of those people that like The Beguiled. So for me, this was a nice return to form for Sofia Coppola, because I liked Somewhere, the Stephen Dorff Fanning film. I thought that was great. Here we go again. Yeah, there we go. I thought that was great. The Somewhere film with Stephen Dorff and Elle Fanning. And I liked, obviously, Lost in Translation. So I like Sofia Coppola as a director. Of course, I think Francis Ford hits higher heights, but I think she's been more consistent of a director compared to him in how long she's been able to work and deliver quality work overall. So that's what I would say. All right, let's see if I've got any Streamlabs. If not, I'm going to wrap it up there. There we go. All right, cool. Let's get on out of here. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me for 2 hours. For God's sakes, I appreciate it madly. Still over 200 of you hanging out with me. Please make sure you hit a like on this video. Share it on your social media. Subscribe to the channel. Please subscribe to the channel down below. Trying to get to those 50,000 subscribers as soon as I can. Would appreciate you all hanging out with us here on the Outlaw Nations. We're doing more. We got a lot of content coming over the next few days. Invincible, Loki. I'll probably have my monster review for the new Godzilla series coming. Monarch. Not Monster. Monarch Legacy of the Monster. I'm going to have that coming up here because I've got all the episodes, so I'll be watching those the next few days and doing a review of those as well. And we've got the Geek Buddies coming up as well, and the Hot Mic, of course, tomorrow at 4 p.m. live here on the channel. All right, that's it for me. You guys are awesome. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. I appreciate it madly. Please, and like I say at the end of every live stream that I do here on the Nation, I like to make sure you guys understand. I know that we're about to enter into some of the difficult season for holidays with Thanksgiving and Christmas coming up. We just finished Halloween, of course. I already started listening to Christmas music today. Hate me if you want, but I'm not the biggest Thanksgiving person. Christmas is my jam. So I'm already in that mode. But I just want to let you all know, like, I know these are the toughest months. And I know, after what happened with Matthew Perry, which I haven't talked about, we'll talk about it on Geek Buddies, we'll talk about it on Hot Mic. And recently with that soap opera actor that passed away, I think today or yesterday. This is the time of year where people really feel the emotions deeply, feel the sense of loss, feel the sense of insecurity, self-esteem, mental health, these kinds of things. Maybe there are issues with their families, issues with their friends. They feel left out. They don't feel loved. Even though they are loved, they don't feel it. These are things that pop up around this time. And so I just want to say to all of you that it's not always easy and it's not tough. It's not, how can I say this? It's not the smoothest time. So what you have to do is understand that for yourself and create things that are going to help you get through certain moments. And this is something I struggle with too. Don't beat yourself up when you have to take an hour or a few hours to yourself to do what you want to do, and stop judging yourself through what you think are other people's prism. No one's going to take care of you more than you're going to take care of you. Even the people who love you the most aren't always there with you 24/7. So you've got to learn to be your own best friend, right? You wouldn't let your best friend sit around feeling sorry for himself for hours on end. You wouldn't let your best friend be in a position where they hate themselves. So you've got to be your own best friend and figure out how to kind of let go of all of that, process that, find the books that guide you through it, find the therapist that guides you through it, listen to the music, meditate, take walks, all these things, hang out with people who just accept you fully for who you are, that you feel that sense of strength so you can get through the tougher moments. I know it's not easy to pick up the phone and reach out to people, text or call. I've been there. I've been there where picking up the phone feels like you're picking up a 50-pound block of concrete to ask someone to talk to you or to help you or to navigate you through a tough time. But you've got to find the way to do that. You've got to find your strength to do that. It's important. I love having you here as a part of the Nation. We've been going at it strong for 3 years now. We're going into our 4th year in February officially. So, stay with me as we keep growing. I want you around. I need you around. So I need you to do whatever you need to do to get through the next second, next minute, next hour, next day, next week, next month, next year. I need you to be able to do that because you never know what's waiting for you on the other side. Certainly for those of you who followed my journey since 2016, when I almost took my life, the way my life has changed, the career that I built for myself, the place that I, the things that I'm able to do, which is to afford to come up to Northern California to be there for someone I care about, to have the place that we have in San Diego, to be lucky with this channel, and to have the incredible person that I have by my side. None of that would have happened for me if I had gone through with what I wanted to go through with in 2016. And so I know a lot of you struggle with those feelings. I know you guys have panic attacks. I know some of you that may have suicidal thoughts. Certainly, I still get them every once in a while. I'm not lying to you. I still get them every once in a while. And I've got to go through my steps. So I would encourage you all to please find the steps that you have to take so that you can get yourself out of the place. And everyone's unique. So, but you've got to do the work to find the way to disattach some of the synapses that lead you to the bad place and connect new synapses, new thought patterns that lead you to a better place and out of the dark places that you can sometimes slide into during these holiday seasons. So I just want to say that before we wrap up the show, because I don't get to say this on my other shows. This is the one show where I'm talking to you all directly. So I just want to make sure you all hear me and feel me, and know that I love you and appreciate you very, very much. And thank you so much for being part of the nation and making this little idiot's fool dreams come true, and allow me to entertain you and join me in the hundreds, sometimes thousands, in these conversations about what's going on in the world. So, and what's going on in entertainment. I appreciate it very, very much. All right. All right. Be well. Take care of yourselves, and come back and join us for both for the pre-tape stuff and the live stuff here on the Outlaw Nation over the next few days. You guys are the best. Honestly, you guys are the best. And I'm very proud to be the leader of the Outlaw Nation. And I'm even prouder to be a part of the Outlaw Nation with all you all. So, all right. Take care of yourselves. Be well. I'll get on out of here. Peace to all of you. Have a great night. Hope you enjoyed your Halloween. And we'll talk to you next time on another brand new episode of The Nation.